There are movie stars who shine for a moment, and then there is Keanu Reeves. His life is not only about action films and Hollywood fame. It is also about pain, kindness, silence, and courage. Tonight, let us walk through his journey, slowly, carefully, like turning the pages of a hidden diary. If you believe true stories of hope can touch the heart, stay with me till the end. Please like and subscribe. It was September 2nd. Keanu Reeves turned 61. His house in Los Angeles was large and beautiful, filled with awards, books, and memories. But on that birthday night, the house was very quiet. No friends, no calls, no warm laughter to fill the empty rooms. On the table sat a birthday cake. 61 candles burned gently, sending little rivers of wax down the vanilla frosting. The light flickered, but the room still felt dark. Keanu stood there, watching the candles melt, and whispered to himself, "Happy birthday, old man." The internet was full of messages for him. Millions of fans posted pictures and words of love. They called him the internet's boyfriend. They wrote about Neo from The Matrix and John Wick. But none of those people were inside his house that night. The truth was simple. The man who gave hope to millions often felt very alone as he walked through his quiet home. Keanu's eyes fell on a small book sitting on a shelf. It was letters to a young poet, a gift from Sandra Bullock many years ago. Inside, she had written in her own handwriting, "Feeling deeply isn't a weakness." They had met in 1993, while filming the movie Speed. Back then, their chemistry was so real that people believed they were more than just co-stars. Sandra used to call him every year on his birthday, right after midnight. It was their secret ritual. But those calls had stopped decades ago. Holding that book now, Keanu felt something break inside him. He remembered Sandra's smile, her laughter, and the quiet moments they once shared. The world thought they were just friends. But inside his heart, she was the one person he never stopped thinking about. The very next evening, Keanu sat under the bright studio lights of The Tonight Show. The host, Jimmy Fallon, welcomed him with a big smile. The audience clapped and cheered loudly. To them, Keanu was still the man who never aged, the star who fought villains on screen. But behind his smile, Keanu was tired. The show started light, but soon the questions turned sharp. "So, Keanu," Jimmy asked playfully, "is there a special someone in your life?" The studio grew quiet. Cameras zoomed in. Millions of people watched from home. Keanu's chest tightened. He wanted to say no, but the truth slipped out. There was someone. A long time ago. The audience leaned forward, curious. Jimmy pressed again. "Come on, who was it?" Then from the crowd a voice shouted, "Sandra Bullock." The name echoed through the room. Keanu froze. His heart pounded. For a moment, he could not breathe. Everyone laughed, thinking it was a joke. But for Keanu, it was no joke. It was his deepest secret, now laid bare in front of the world. Social media exploded within minutes. Hashtags trended. Memes spread across TikTok and Instagram, mocking him. Headlines shouted, "Keanu Reeves, friend-zoned by Sandra Bullock." Talk shows and podcasts laughed at his pain. Alone in his dressing room, Keanu scrolled through cruel comments. Every word was like a knife. Even his publicist called, asking him to give a statement to control the damage. But he hung up. He didn't want damage control. He wanted silence. That night, he sat by himself at home. The candles on his cake had long gone out. The book from Sandra still lay open on the table. His heart whispered a single question. Why didn't I tell her the truth all those years ago? Across Los Angeles, Sandra Bullock sat alone in her quiet home. She had seen the Fallon interview. She had read the cruel comments online. And her heart broke not because of the gossip, but because she had kept silent for 30 years, every birthday since 1994. She had thought about calling Keanu at midnight, just like she once did. She would even save his number under a special symbol so she could find it quickly. But each year, fear stopped her. Fear of changing their friendship. Fear of saying the wrong thing. That night, her phone glowed in her hand. Keanu's number was right there. She whispered to herself, "It's been too long. Maybe it's too late." But then she remembered his face on the show, so vulnerable, so alone. And in that moment, silence no longer felt noble. It felt cruel. At 2:47 a.m., Sandra made a decision. She picked up her car keys, told her assistant she needed to be alone, and drove into the night. The Los Angeles freeways were quiet, the city lights stretching like ribbons across the dark sky as she drove. Her mind replayed moments from the past, their laughter on the set of Speed, the times they stayed up late, rewriting lines. Together, the afternoon, they planted jasmine in his garden, their hands brushing in the soil. She had written letters she never sent. She had stood outside his house more than once, too afraid to knock. But tonight, there was no turning back. She whispered, "Some love stories are worth the risk." Keanu was at his piano when he heard it. 3 soft knocks. He stopped playing mid-note, his heart racing. It was 3:17 a.m. Who could it be? When he opened the door, there she was, Sandra Bullock. No makeup, hair tied loosely, wearing an old sweater he remembered from years ago. Her eyes were wet with unshed tears. "Hi," she said softly. For a moment, time stood still. 30 years of silence melted away in one simple word. Keanu's lips parted, his voice breaking. "Sandy." She stepped inside without waiting, and he let her, as if his soul already knew she belonged there. In his living room, Sandra finally spoke the words she had buried for decades. "When I saw the world laugh at you for being honest, I realized I can't stay silent anymore. Keanu, I should have told you this in 1993. I loved you. I still do." Keanu felt his chest tighten. Tears filled his eyes. "You love me," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. Sandra nodded, her voice shaking but firm. "Yes, through all my years, through my marriages and losses, I carried it. You were always there, in every letter I never sent, in every thought I never spoke." Keanu stepped closer, his hand trembling as he reached for her face. All this time, Sandra gave a small laugh through her tears. "We wasted so many years, didn't we?" Keanu shook his head gently. "No, maybe we were just waiting for the right moment." And then, for the first time, their lips met in a kiss that washed away decades of silence. The night slowly gave way to dawn. Gentle light painted the walls of Keanu's house in soft gold and pink. Sandra and Keanu sat together on the couch, their hands linked, their hearts still racing from all they had confessed. For years, Keanu had believed silence was safer. For years, Sandra had believed waiting was wiser. But as the sunlight streamed through the curtains, both of them understood something simple. Love is not meant to be hidden. Love is meant to be lived. Keanu smiled a real, deep smile, the kind he had not worn in years. "Do you know what today feels like?" he asked softly. Sandra tilted her head. "What?" "It feels like the first day of my life." Of course, the world outside had not stopped spinning. By morning, the internet was louder than ever. Memes, headlines, endless debates about what happened on the talk show filled every corner of social media. But this time, something had changed. Keanu no longer cared about the noise. Neither did Sandra. When their story began to leak, when paparazzi spotted them walking hand in hand at a small cafe, they didn't hide. Sandra laughed over coffee while Keanu listened with shining eyes. People took photos, but the couple looked calm, even joyful. The internet, which only hours before had mocked Keanu, now shifted. New hashtags began to trend. Hashtag Keanu and Sandra forever. Fans posted montages of their speed chemistry, their gentle gestures, their years of friendship. The cruel jokes faded. In their place grew something rare: support, joy, and belief. People around the world whispered, maybe some love stories are worth waiting for. Weeks later, Keanu took Sandra on a quiet trip to New York. Together, they stood in front of a house he had secretly bought years before. It was the house Sandra once called perfect while they were filming a commercial. For 15 years, Keanu had kept it empty, waiting for a day he thought would never come. Sandra's eyes filled with tears as she walked through its wide windows and wooden floors. "You kept it ready," she whispered. Keanu nodded gently. "Yes, just like I kept my heart ready. Even when I thought it was hopeless." They stood there, side by side, in the middle of that empty living room. And for the first time in 30 years, both of them felt complete. Their love story did not erase the pain of the years before. It did not erase Keanu's loneliness or Sandra's regrets. But it gave meaning to their journey. Sandra said it best. One evening, as they sat together in the garden they had once planted, "We didn't lose those 30 years, Keanu. We lived them. We became the people we needed to be for this moment." Keanu nodded, holding her hand. "Yes, some stories just take longer to begin. But once they do, they remind us that waiting is never wasted." Keanu and Sandra's story is not just about two Hollywood stars. It is about the quiet truth that many of us carry in our own lives. The calls we never made, the words we never said, the people we still think about when the room grows quiet. This story reminds us that it is never too late. Time may pass, but the heart remembers. And sometimes, the universe gives us a second chance, if only we are brave enough to open the door when it knocks. So, if you are listening today, perhaps you are carrying a silence of your own. Perhaps there is someone you miss, or a truth you have hidden. Let this story remind you, it is never too late to speak. To love, whether whispered in rumor or lived in truth, gives us a gift: the belief that love, no matter how delayed, is always worth waiting for.